What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another video. I know, at first glance you see me wearing the same clothes as I wore in the previous video. I promise you, I did clean myself. I did get in the shower. I washed my clothes. I'm not a dirty freaking man, But no, before I get into this video, I just wanted to say thank you guys for the support that you guys showed me on one of my previous videos that I made about, how much can change in a month. Like 150 views, like 7 likes. I know that's not much, when I say that out loud, but to me, it really just shows me that people still care, and people still want to hear what I gotta say. Now, granted, probably like 75, probably like 50 to 75 roughly of you guys maybe, watch that video for the first time, meaning watching me for the first time, or maybe it popped up on your recommended. So I'm trying to stay modest. Maybe the numbers aren't, as accurate as they look, to the naked eye, but point still stands. I do appreciate it. It almost kind of makes me emotional thinking about it. Now, I'm not going to get all mushy on you, but it does, man, because it's like, damn, at one point I thought that this channel was dead. I thought that there was nothing that I could do to really revive this channel, to store life back into it. So just knowing that me just simply turning on my phone and pressing record and talking about what goes through my mind and what's going on in my life has people wanting to connect with me and relate with me means a lot, man. And it really, it really brings me back to the foundation of what I built this channel on. And it's just comforting. It's a comforting feeling. So I want to say thank you for that. Now, I wanted to get on here and talk about why I cut my hair. Now, you may be hearing that and you're thinking, dude, do you really got to make a whole video about this? Like, what could you have possibly noticed differently about your life since you cut your hair? What are the benefits that you could have possibly gained from cutting your hair? And that's fair questions to ask, and that's a fair judgment. But I'm here to tell you that I definitely have noticed a change within myself, a change within my life ever since I cut my hair. First and foremost, let's talk about why I had my hair in braids, why I had my hair long. To be honest, it was me just wanting to change it up and try something not new, because before I had gone on that long stretch of time of getting my hair braided, I had already gotten it braided before, like, sitting in the hallway at school and some girl would do it, or, at a party, my mom's friend would do it, so there was little times here and there where I would get it braided, but in that time, I started getting it braided every week. And truth be told, I just didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like how long my hair was. I didn't like how I looked with long hair. So I thought the best way to style it was to get it in braids. And, I wouldn't be lying. I would be lying if I didn't say that part of it also had to do with, attracting the opposite sex. I felt like maybe I'd become more attractive to women. It's such a ridiculous thing to say when you say it out loud, and it really just shows where my mind was at back then, and it just shows the immaturity of me, just thinking that. And, it's just like, what the hell, when you hear that. But that's the God honest truth. Like, I really thought that maybe it would help me attract a woman more. But again, I don't want to make it seem like that was the main reason why I did it. But like I said, I'd be lying if I didn't say that it definitely played a factor. I feel like the main reason is what I said there in the beginning. I just really didn't like the way my hair looked long. I thought it just kind of looked, shaggy in a way. And I know you may be asking, well, why didn't you cut it? I didn't like the way I look with my hair cut. You know what I mean? That's the truth too. I just felt like I didn't have the right head shape. I just felt like, I didn't really know how to style it short. Obviously now that's changed. I feel like I have a good hairstyle now. I feel like I look, better with it short, oddly enough. But it took a process. It took time to really get to this point. It really took some looking in the mirror, being honest with myself. There's times where I would just, focus too much on my hair, you know, uh, just putting way too much energy into it, like, waking up, being in the mirror for hours, just trying to style it, trying to fix it. Um, Even so much so to the point where when I would go to work out, I wouldn't go as hard as I usually did in my workouts because I didn't want to sweat. Because if I sweat and I had the braids in, it would make, my scalp break out, and I'd be like, ugh, you know what I mean? I don't want to wash my hair because I want to keep the braids in. So I don't want to go as hard in the gym so I don't have to sweat as much. It was just a really, really bad mindset to have, honestly. And I didn't realize it then, but like I said, as time went on, as I really started to think about it, um, it only made sense to cut it. And another reason why I cut my hair is because, for those of you guys that don't know, I don't really mention this a lot. I don't think I may have mentioned it briefly, but I do have psoriasis. So with that comes, scalp psoriasis, unfortunately. And I didn't have it initially. It was mostly just on my joints, like on my elbows, behind my knees, on my pelvis, whatever the case may be, like on my leg, my knee. But then it started getting to the point where there would be spots showing up, like in my hair. I'll show you this right here. This is the big one that I had last year. And dude, I mean, this damn near made me depressed having that shit, bro. Because I would go to work, I just covered it in Band-Aids. People would ask me what happened. I'd have to lie to them and tell them that the barber clipped me with his clippers. Yeah, it started getting to the point where my scalp was suffering from psoriasis. And I really just had to make a decision. And I feel like I made the right one. This is definitely something that I needed to do because, like I said, scalp psoriasis, having braids, not washing your hair every day because of the braids is just a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for letting your scalp go and damaging it even more. And I really just didn't want it to get worse than it was starting to get. It started here, but then I started to get spots like I don't know if you could see that, like right there a little bit, even up in like this area. And it was crazy because when I first started getting my braids, the person that was braiding my hair, she'd be like, yo, like, your scalp is actually not that bad, because I'd go like 2 weeks, get it redone. And I remember her taking the braids out, and she would look at my scalp and be like, you know what, your scalp isn't that bad for how long you had these braids in. And then a year goes by, 2 years goes by, and I started to notice that my scalp got worse, particularly more in this area, and at that point, when she would take my braids out to redo them, there would still be, spots there, or not spots there, but there would be dandruff, breaking out. And I noticed that. I'm like, damn, before, when I got my hair braided, she would tell me that, my scalp was good. It looked healthy. Now that I'm braiding my hair, I'm starting to get, dandruff building up there. So I definitely took notice of that. I feel like that was a sign also. Even just the days where I'd have the braids in, I would pick at it a lot. I would pick out my scalp, and I think that made it worse too. So yeah, man, it just had to be done. And I feel like the big overall reason why I decided to cut my hair also was because I'm a big believer in that your hair carries negative energy, or not negative energy. Let me rephrase that. Your hair carries energy in general. And I felt like at that point my hair was carrying a lot of negative energy because I had went through, you know, me getting fired from Target, starting a new job, you know, feeling a little bit lost when I started this new job. Obviously, my mom moving away, me having to move in with my dad. It was just a lot of changes going on within my life that I wasn't handling positively. I was handling it more negatively, and I feel like that kind of, you know, was being carried on me through my hair, and I feel like I had to cut it off, you know, because I didn't want to no longer hold on to that energy anymore. I wanted to, you know, have a rebirth, if you will, you know, have just a fresh me, a fresh start, a fresh slate to work with. And not for nothing, but I feel like when I did cut my hair, because I've done it before, there's a video that you can go back to earlier on my channel with me cutting my hair. And in that time, bro, I was probably the most productive I've ever been in my life, with YouTube, with the gym, with just my home life, with my work life. I was posting so many videos. My channel was growing at an exponential rate, and I feel like that was due to me cutting my hair. Now, that's not the sole reason, but it definitely plays a factor because I'm no longer spending so much time worrying about it. I'm no longer spending so much time focusing on it, you know, washing it in the shower, you know, like I said, not going as hard in the gym because I don't want to sweat that much, you know what I mean? That, and, you know, me just even spending the money, even spending the time to go out to get my hair done. That time is now being traded in for time that I could spend posting videos, working on myself, working on these videos. You know, I'm able to go harder in the gym now. I go as hard as I possibly can because I don't give a fuck about sweating. I don't give a fuck about dandruff building up now because I'm just going to take a shower the night of, you know? So, yeah, all in all, I feel like it was a necessary change that I need to make. It was the right change that I needed to make, and it was the only change that I needed to make if I wanted to grow more in life, if I wanted to grow more with myself. And, you know, I haven't looked back. I'm proud of myself for doing it because I feel like the past me would have held on to it a bit longer. I feel like the past me would have just not really, I feel like I wouldn't have been able to accept that. I feel like I would have tried anything I could to hold on to that hair. But, you know, I was honest with myself. I looked at myself in the mirror. I've talked to myself and I told myself, you know, this is not something I want to do, but it's something that I need to do. And, you know, I thank God that I did it because I feel like I added a couple extra years to my scalp. You know, maybe I saved my scalp a couple extra years of, you know, being this good. And, you know, maybe I saved my hairline a couple of years. So, yeah, I'm grateful. I'm happy that I made the decision in the end. And I hope that you can, you know, learn from me. And if you feel like that you need to cut your hair as well, do it, you know. Do whatever it is that you feel you need to do in order to evolve in your life. I feel like this is what I needed to do in order for myself to evolve in my life. And I just want to see the same for you because I know how hard it can be. You know, I know it can be not something that you really want to admit, you know, not something that you really want to face. And it could be uncomfortable and it could be a bit, you know, nerve-wracking because, you know, you might not know, you know, what to expect. You might not even know what you'll look like when you cut your hair. So I get it, man. Those are all things that I felt. Those are all things that I thought about. But I'm just here to let you know that it's totally worth it and that it is something that you should do if you feel like it's been holding you back. If you do find yourself, you know, picking at your scalp or worrying too much about it, or, you know, you feel like when you get your braids done that first couple of days it looks good, but then a couple of days after it doesn't look good. So I get it, you know. It's totally necessary. But yeah. My fault. I had to, you know, pause the video because my dad was coming down and it was just kind of awkward. But yeah, I feel like that's all I really needed to say. I feel like I've got everything that I needed to get off my chest. Again, if you feel like this is what you need to do, if you feel like these are the things that you've been thinking about for a while now, but you just haven't committed to it, I'm here to remind you. I'm here to be the sign that you need to do it, that you should do it, and that it's not something you'll regret. And it, you know, at the end of the day, hair will grow back. And yeah, there's a lot to gain from it. I promise you that. And like I was saying, like if you feel like, you know, when you get your hair freshly braided, you only look good for those first couple of days and then it starts to look bad. Or if you get a fresh retwist and, you know, same thing, you feel like you look good those couple of days, but then, you know, as you get into like day 4 or 5, you start to, you know, focus too much on it. You start to adjust it so much. You start to, you know, spend extra 5 minutes looking in the mirror more than you should have. I get it, man. Like, I totally get it. Those are all things that I felt and experienced as well. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Like I said, I think that's everything that I really need to say. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Peace, love, positivity. Love y'all. Take care of yourself. Peace.